Hi, everyone. Thanks so much for joining us today. I'm really excited to have to introduce our guest speakers. We have a pretty full webinar today. I want to remind everyone that if you have questions, go to the Q&A section at the bottom, and you'll be able to type in your questions, and we'll try to fit those in throughout the webinar. And of course, if you have any questions aside from that, we'll follow up with you after the webinar if need be. So I'm going to go ahead and just introduce our speakers. So we're going to start with Dave. Hi, Dave. Thanks for joining us today.
Hi,
Dave is
good to be here.
Good to have you. He is the CEO of Mortgage Coach. So I actually didn't hear of Mortgage Coach prior to talking with you before. So would you give a little bit of insights and background on what Mortgage Coach is and what drove you to start it and kind of what you do?
Yeah, no problem. So I was a loan officer once upon a time, a pretty good one. Did almost 300 units a year. And Mortgage Coach, was just, it was my competitive advantage back in the day where most loan officers provided a fee worksheet, which was transactional piece of paper. And Mortgage Coach was when you quote rates and fees, graphs and charts. I started it 20 years ago, flash forward to today. The best way to deliver rates and fees is graphs and charts on mobile phones with video streaming into it. So we're very much a technology company, mobile first, helping loan officers. I'm proud to say that when you look at any list of the top 1% or the best loan officers in America, 34% are using Mortgage Coach to deliver rates and fees, whether it's a pre-qual or refi. So at the end of the day, we're giving loan officers a competitive advantage with technology.
Awesome. And you had mentioned to me prior to this webinar that you're on Instagram and you're also on YouTube, and you have a lot of other webinars like this and interviews and such. So how do people find you?
Yeah, no, we definitely believe that the best loan officer is the best teacher. And so we've turned teaching into a competitive advantage for loan officer, and we create tons of education. I mean, I interview someone at least 3 times a week. We put that on YouTube. If you search Mortgage Coach on YouTube, you'll find our channel. Maybe throughout this conversation, I'll put a few links to actual videos. I recommend that you not only click through and watch a couple of them, but you subscribe to our YouTube channel. And then Instagram's the same thing. I just believe a picture tells a million words. So our community gives pictures of Mortgage Coach running wild out there in the world, and we post those. And again, it's Mortgage Coach on Instagram.
Awesome. Well, now we're going to go ahead and introduce our main guest speaker, Michele Town. I'm really excited to have her here because she's been kind of a power user of both Zillow long form and has been on Zillow a long time, and also uses Mortgage Coach. And she was named one of the top MLOs in volume in the country according to Scotsman, and I'm really excited to have her here to talk about some of the things that she did in her business to kind of transform herself and to lead to that success. I actually looked over some of the data on Scotsman Guide just to kind of get an idea of what kind of transformation has occurred over the last few years, and between 2015 and 2016, there's a 29% increase in volume, which is huge. You don't really see a lot of growth like that. So I'm really interested in kind of picking her brain and getting an idea of what she's done using both Zillow and Mortgage Coach to help drive that success. So thanks for joining us, Michele. I know you're really busy, and I really appreciate you taking the time to be here today and talk to everyone about your success. Let's go ahead and open up with kind of where you started. Will you give us an introduction to who you are and how you got into mortgages?
Sure thing. Hi guys, it's really nice to see everybody, or you get to see me, but it's nice to see everybody, and I'm really glad to be here and try to help anybody grow their business. It's kind of what's in my heart, and I love that. So you can blame my sister for getting me into the business 27 years ago. I was living in Georgia, and she handed me this book of how to process a loan. It was in this big brown folder, and she goes, "Go get a job." And so I did. And I was fired the first day because I asked too many questions. They actually hired me as a receptionist, and I asked too many questions. So they then hired me as a processor. And from that point up until 2007, I was probably one of the top processors in Orange County. And then I decided I wanted to make a jump and a leap, and left in 2007, became a loan officer, and starved for 2 to 3 years. But made it through it.
So you're both on, oh, first of all, I have watched some of the past interviews you've done with Dave on the Mortgage Coach channel on YouTube, and last year you did an interview with Cindy Ertman, and I learned a lot about just kind of who you are as a person and also professionally. And you said some things that resonated with me, that you basically kind of had a breakdown where you had to reinvent yourself. And I'm interested in kind of learning more about how you were able to reinvent yourself and what has propelled your success from there.
Well, yes, that was, I call it my breakdown, breakthrough time. You have to, we're all human, and we make decisions sometimes that aren't the best for us, or we think they are at the time, and then they end up not being. I was a broken person. I made some bad choices, and literally wasn't sure if I really wanted to do this business anymore. And I sat down with, I had a coach at the time. Cindy was not my coach at that time. I hired her afterwards, but I sat down with my coach, sat down with my sisters, and a bunch of colleagues that have known me for years. And, they make you identify, what kind of loan officer do you want to be? And when you can answer that question with such certainty, like I was able to do after my breakdown, you will propel your business because you're laser focused on what you want. I mean, we do a lot with some Darren Daly and the coaches there, and he's so right. It is all about identifying who you are and what your core values are. And if you can identify those, I mean, our core values, I can tell you off the top of my head, we make a positive impact on the people we interact with. We have compassion for this job because it is really hard. And if we can't look or talk to our clients on the phones, we're required to call our clients on the phones and not email them. And we can communicate by email, but we want to talk to them because we have to make that connection. And that's why Mortgage Coach is so great, and these videos, because sometimes you don't have the time to meet face to face, and then you bring in this incredible video that lets the person feel and see who you are. But our team, again, if we can't make a positive impact with compassion, we don't do it. Period.
Such a great focus. I work with a lot of loan officers, as you can imagine, and everyone on our team knows who you are because you've been around Zillow for a long time. And one of the things that everyone says about you is that you're very client focused. And even looking at the reviews on your profile, everybody says that your customer service is outstanding. So what are some of the things that, aside from videos and using Mortgage Coach, what are some things that give you the best focus on your customers? What are ways that you're able to provide some great customer service?
That's a great question, Mary. And boy, you can do so many things to help your clients. I guess the word in something, and I'm going to bring Dave back into this for a second. If you look at the word Mortgage Coach, it helped me understand what I really was. I am my client's coach. I'm not their salesperson. I'm their coach. And once I put myself into that category and that mindset, when you get on the phone with a client, it's very easy to help them understand and connect with them. And you're not trying to sell them anything. You're trying to say, hey, this is what we do. My job is to help you have a financial benefit to your family, make a positive impact on your family's lives. You can see we bring in our core values to them. We tell them that we're partners in this, that it's not one-sided, and that we can't do this without them. The other thing we do is we're very client-focused and very CRM-focused. We reach out to our clients after a transaction closes 3 times during that first year. They get our normal drip campaigns, they get birthday campaigns, we do a closing gift program. We do an annual review every year for the first 2 years. I can't say I've done it for 3 because I only started it 2 years ago, so I'm on the 2nd year of that. It gets better and better each time. I'm not afraid to ask for referrals. And I tell people, the best thing that you can do, because they're always like, oh, let me, send you and your team a gift. And I go, no, your gift to us is to refer me to somebody. I also am very team oriented. I work in a team. Without my team, I'm not successful. That 29% increase that you saw was due to Zillow influx and also really learning to become a leader instead of a dictator. And that was what I learned in 2014 or 15. Don't be a dictator anymore.
And Mortgage Coach kind of helped you change your mindset on that, or was that a mix of other things?
Well, I had used Mortgage Coach, but not appropriately. Dave helped me get that dialed in. And then the company I was working with, they had merged in Mortgage Coach and made it a little bit easier and user-friendly for me. I think Mortgage Coach sets you apart. You can, like Dave said earlier, you can be transactional, or you can choose to be, transactional or choose to be three-dimensional, which is the video, the customer service, the contact with them. Because again, in this age of the millennials, how do we connect with our people? We can only connect with them a lot of times through video. And I don't want my sole communication to be this, texting and email. I want it to be on the phone or face-to-face if I can do it. And I think your conversion ratio is better, like Dave said.
So Dave, in what ways have you been able to drive Michele into using Mortgage Coach properly? What's the difference? I'm not very familiar with kind of how that works.
Yeah, no problem. But before I go tactical, I want to make sure everybody really heard some of the things that Michele said. Because on this call right now, we probably have some folks that are top producers, closing over 10 loans a month consistently. We've got some that are mega producers, closing over 20. We've got some folks that are struggling, closing less than 5 loans a month consistently. And then we've got a lot of core producers. And I've interviewed, hundreds of the best loan officers in America. And they all have a couple things in common. One, you heard Michele, it's more than a loan. There's this servant's heart there. She's really clear on that. She's really clear that she's a coach and an advisor, and she executes on that. And then, so that I would say a lot of folks that are like, let's just say you're not achieving what you want. Sometimes, I'm going to share some tactics, but it's working on your why. I've seen so many people have a breakthrough in their career where they kind of like got burned out, they went through some struggle, and then they got clear on a why, and it was bigger than doing a loan. It was bigger than just having someone say, yes, I'll give you my social security number. So a lot of you on this call, you need to go back and work on your why before you go work on the tactics. By the way, I interviewed Simon Sinek a few years ago, and it was Simon for the mortgage loan officer. He even shared a story of how he'd never worked with his, I don't want to mention the bank's name, but he would never work with this loan officer again. And it really came down to the why. The guy at that time tactically executed, but he didn't connect on a human level. I'm out. So with all that said, getting to the tactics of Mortgage Coach, I know, I believe this to be an ultimate fact, that the loan officer of the future is a coach, it is an advisor, and leverages technology really well, appropriately. I also think the realtor of the future is the same thing. So Mortgage Coach, first of all, you have to be that loan officer that cares about people, or you're just going to be transactional loan officer. What do you need Mortgage Coach for? But if you have that hopes and dreams conversation with the client, what are your goals? How old do you want to be when your home's paid off? How long do you think you'll live in this house? And you actually listen to that. And then you plug the numbers into Mortgage Coach, total cost analysis. It helps the family go, this is how I should pick this loan versus this loan, and how I could build wealth with real estate. One of the most popular Mortgage Coach total cost analysis right now, because it's, in the purchase business, there's 5 to 10 offers on every house. Lots of times you'll see loan officers like Michele doing a why buy now analysis, or a move up analysis, or a rent versus own analysis, where they're showing the family like, you better buy now because you think interest rates are going to go up 0.5%. You believe that values are going to go up X. Now let's dollarize that over 1 year, 2 years, 3 years, 5 years. That's what Mortgage Coach does. It helps you dollarize the value of buying now based off the family's goals and dreams and beliefs. Michelle, would you say that any differently? I mean, how would you answer that question? How does Mortgage Coach help you?
I agree 100%. I'm going to give you a great example, and this just happened on Monday, and I'll be happy to share this video with everybody. Client is coming in. She's struggling a little bit with her credit scores, and which is going to pop up her interest rate a little bit. So she said, I think I need to wait. And I said, okay, let's talk about that. I always ask the question, and Jen always does it too in our mastermind group. And we talk about it and we say, you know, with your permission, do you mind if we kind of discuss a little bit deeper with you and talk about why you want to wait? And then what I'll do is I'll get on the Mortgage Coach and I'll get them on the live portion of it so I can play with the numbers and they can watch it. Sorry, my pen. And then I can show her, I said, if you wait for 6 months, I said, your $450,000 purchase just became $410 for the same payment that you wanted to make. We talk a lot about payments. We talk a lot about the tax benefits. I talk a lot with people about, do you realize every time you make a payment, I have a lot of first-time home buyers, every time you make a payment, you're saving in your house because that's your best investment in your entire life. And you're also saving with the IRS. Every time you make a payment, you're putting 60 or 70% of your payment away, either into your house or to the IRS. And I always personalize it. I tell people my story, which is 14 years ago. I bought my condo. I was paying $1,100 a month rent, and at that time, rates were in the 9s. My payment was $1,800 a month. And it was very painful at that time to jump that high. And then I say, fast forward 14 years and ask me where I'm at. I'm in my forever home on 2 acres with my horses and dogs living at home with me. And I said I couldn't have done that had I not made that first step. I would say probably my style has changed a lot because of that processing background, I was a tactician and I didn't know how to personalize. I didn't think people wanted to hear me be personal. And I've realized through the last 2 years of this intense coaching, doing, personalized things, that it is absolutely important to be personal. And I do put that on my Mortgage Coach interviews or my Mortgage Coach presentations as well. I always put something personal in there because I need to make it so that they feel connected with me.
So I want to jump on something. I've heard you use the word story a bunch of times. I've heard you use strategies. And one thing, again, another takeaway from top loan officers that are just killing it versus struggling is that they tell really good stories. They tell good stories, they tell strategies. So when you ask me, like, what does Mortgage Coach do? It helps a loan officer tell a story or explain a strategy leveraging mobile tech. So it's like Michelle would talk to a customer and then she'd say, now let me show you a few stories or strategies. She might tell a story about a first-time home buyer that she helped. And then she might say, well, let me show your story, which is you said that you think values are going up 0.5% or 5% over the next year. You think interest rates are going up 1%. You're renting, this is your rent payment. Based off the houses that you qualified, this is your payment. Now let me show you what that story looks like. And so, I always tell when we train on Mortgage Coach, it's not about the technology. Don't go say, yeah, I've got this great new app and it does all this. Like, that's not what you want to tell a realtor. That's not what you want to tell a family. You just want to use the technology to explain a strategy or tell them a story. Does that make sense?
It does, 100%.
Well, speaking of stories, your Zillow profile has a lot of customer stories. I think the last time I checked, you had almost 170 reviews from your customers, which is phenomenal. I think you're one of the highest ranked lenders in California, which is such a huge deal with Zillow. Reviews are so important. So going back to using the total cost analysis, how do you think that has helped in getting those reviews, or do you see any correlation between having those tools available and your Zillow reviews?
Absolutely. I think the more technology, or I don't want to say technology because it's not really technology. It is the more information, more value add that you can give to your client, the more they're going to remember you. And I ask for the reviews. You know, again, I'm not afraid to ask for the reviews. I don't laugh at me, but I went to the spiritual advisor, and I love her because she helped me focus in on, it doesn't matter if I know that in my heart that I'm doing it for the right reason. I never do anything for money, just so you know. I do it because of the satisfaction. The money comes as a byproduct, but if my full focus is on that mighty dollar, I'm going to lose all my deals, because then I grab onto them and hold on to them too tight. So what I do is I tell the stories. I make it personal. If somebody wants to leave me, I'm gracious at it. I don't get mad at them, because you never know when they're going to circle back in your life. Anybody who's on this video knows that this mortgage world is this big when it comes to it. You circle around and you run into people that you haven't seen. And I would say use that when you're talking to clients. Use that when you're using your mortgage coach presentations to be more personal. Use them as the tool that they're intended to be. Yes, they're supposed to show you how your savings and what you're doing, but you're also giving them a value add of, hey, I'm here to help you and show you what you can do. I have a quick story on something that happened to me right around the time, right after the breakdown. I'm a horse girl, as you can see, and I was at this clinic with my beautiful, beautiful horse that he'll do anything for you. He's just got a heart of gold. And I'm riding my horse through this, clinic, and the judge is like totally dead silent. So I get done, come down center line, and halt. And I'm like, oh my God, she's not saying anything. I must have been horrible. And I'm like looking at my horse, and I'm, tightening his reins, saying, hey, look better. And she stops me and she says, why do you keep telling your horse what he can't do? And why don't you show him what you can do? And I will tell you, wow, if you take that philosophy and put that into your work, the people that you're around, it is life altering.
Hey, Michelle, we got to write that down. Stop telling people what they can't do and only tell them what they
or show them what they can.
And then
show them what they can do.
I love that. Yeah. By the way, I'm typing that in notes for everybody. Would love to have more engagement, so please ask questions. If one of us says something that you think is a good takeaway, put it in notes, share it for everyone. But that was a really good one. I just thought of that one kind of going off the grid. It's a good one as a parent. I catch myself sometimes focusing more on, don't do this, don't do that, do that. No, focus on the positive. Good stuff, Michelle.
So kind of pivoting a little bit here, what are some other tools that you use to maintain a healthy work-life balance? I know that was something that you had talked about with Cindy in that past interview, is that you had to maintain that healthy work-life balance because you were just on the go all the time, and that's kind of what led to a burnout, essentially.
Well, if you would ask me that 6 months ago, I could have told you. I made a pretty significant shift in my business over the last 3 months, so I'm a little bit heavy on the work side while we're rebuilding the group. You have to invest in yourself. So I'm a little bit off kilter, but before I would tell you I do time blocking. I schedule time off for myself. I would not work on Sundays. Those were my days. Really trusting your team. Cindy told me something in one of my first interviews with her, and it helped me really. That's how I started getting away from being that dictator and becoming that true leader. And that was, if you don't trust your team, fire them. And it's amazing when you sit there and go, get rid of them if you don't trust them. And you're like, well, but wait. And you realize, hold on, this is self-induced. I need to trust the team I hired. And I would tell you that was one of the biggest things that helped me grow as well. Because we can't do it without our team. And we can't do it without the tools that we have in this business, right? I mean, gosh, you do 2 loans a month if you didn't have anybody helping you.
In talking about your team and all these tools, what are some specifically that you use? You said you didn't work Sunday, so when you have long form and you get a contact, what were some things that you were able to do to get in touch with them, but also have some sanity from not working 24/7?
Another great thing that I learned was if I let my realtors know, hey, if it's Sunday, unless it's an emergency, if you can please not call me. I also have Sonia in our office that will take the calls on Sunday for me. The other thing that is really empowering, and we don't think about it because sometimes as a salesperson, at least I'll talk for me, sometimes as a salesperson, I feel I don't know what my value is. When I lose that brain part of me and I'm like, oh, I have to take every single call. If I lose this one call, I'm going to lose that big deal. And when people call you on Saturday, you'd be surprised, because if they text me, I'll text them back and I'll say, hey, I am doing family things right now. Is this something that can wait till Monday, or can we schedule it for a little bit later? Or when you get them on the phone, they'll say, hey, I'm out lunch right now. Would you mind if I call you back at 7? And you'd be surprised. I have probably had one person that has said, no, this is urgent. And everybody else is like, oh gosh, yeah, call me on Monday. I don't want you to work this weekend. See?
Love that. Hey,
but
go ahead, Mary.
Oh, but the other tools, I just wanted to answer the tools question. I use a CRM. It's absolutely imperative in our business to have a functioning CRM. I use a dialing system when I'm making my outbound phone calls to my realtors. And, the other tool that we do, a lot of coaching. If you don't have a coach, you have to get one. It's the only way to move forward. And I would say the final thing would be making sure that you have a capable team and let them help you grow. Don't stand in their way. Those are the 4 tools that I use.
Hey, are you using anything for like reputation management? Anything to collect and share reviews?
I haven't been. I haven't had enough time to kind of delve into that. Literally for my reviews, I just ask for reviews, and then my CRM will download run reviews onto my emails as they go out.
Got it. By the way, I just took notes, put them in chat. Michelle's, we call it a tech stack. I mean, everybody on this call, what is your tech stack? And if you don't have one, you need to get one. Again, I interview the best of the best. They all have a great why. They all have great communication rhythms with their clients. And you can't have consistent, scalable communication rhythms if you not only have a CRM, but you don't use your CRM. So the tech stack here is CRM, dialer, mortgage coach. And then did you notice within the way that she answered that, she said, I have a personal coach. Because that's the other thing, everybody on here, we've got to use the technology. Like when I interview struggling loan officers versus top performing loan officers, top performers have a tech stack and they use it and they use it well. Struggling loan officers either don't have a tech stack or they have it and they don't use it well. So I just put a note in there on that. And by the way, Michelle, some questions are coming in. And also, what CRM are you using, if you don't mind sharing?
Yes, I'm actually using 2 right now. I'm using Big Purple Dot because that comes with Zillow. And then I'm also using Jungo. When I left my last company, I lost my CRM campaigns, and Jungo has some great CRM campaigns. So that's who I'm using right now. But Big Purple Dot is really set up, and I have kind of dialed in their system for me. I use it for every lead that comes in, not just Zillow anymore, because it's a reminder for me. It tells me when to call them. It text messages out for me, and it sends automated emails that I have, preset for them. So it's a great system. And so is Jungo. I just haven't had enough time to dive into Jungo yet.
So a couple of thoughts for everyone. When you start thinking about your CRM, you got to think, okay, you have leads, and you've got to turn those leads into families, that you connect with, their goals. Then you need to turn them into a transaction. You need to communicate with them during the transaction. And then you need to turn them, that process, your perfect loan process, needs to turn them into a client for life. You heard Michelle talk about annual reviews. So I know Michelle, I've interviewed her. I put a link to the interview in chat, but you use Purple Dot to turn a lead into a family, into a loan, right? I mean, that's the solution that helps you get them on the phone, helps you win respect, convert. and then you're putting them into Jungo to drive communications during the transaction and to drive that client for life experience. And I would assume also you're probably managing your realtors and your partnerships with Jungo. Is that accurate?
Correct. Yeah, Jungo is, think of Jungo as my communicator. And I guess if you would have a dialer type CRM, Big Purple Dot's my dialer CRM. Once it actually connects and I move into either a pre-qual status or something, it moves from Big Purple Dot into Jungo because that's my A-list. I let Jungo manage all the clutter. And then, or not Jungo, I let Big Purple Dot manage the clutter because it does it so well. And then what I do is I move everything into Jungo to do the drip campaigns, to do the management of the loans, the updates on the statuses, everything like that. So they're both great CRMs.
So a couple thoughts for everyone. And I'm not here to advocate you have two different CRMs. I think it's great when you can have one. But sometimes you need two. But here's the deal. Everybody goes, oh, what's the best CRM? It's the one that you use. And usually when I interview loan officers, they don't need to change CRMs. They need to use the one that they have. By the way, the other thing I wanted to put is I put a link to like a 15, it might even have been 10-minute interview that I did with Chris Smith, the author of the conversion code, because in this interview, it was just totally focused on how to get someone on the phone. You know, they come in through Zillow long form, you gotta get them on the phone so we can convert them, you know, so boom, you know, that, or boom. But by the way, I've interviewed Chris 3 times. I interviewed him on full hour on how to convert, full hour on how he, you know, generates lead. And then we did like a 15-minute conversation, which was the link I put in here on how to get the prospect on the phone so you can convert them. So just think of that. By the way, Michelle, people also asked, what dialer are you using? Do you mind sharing that?
Not at all, and I will thank my friend Hunter from RPM. Phone Burner is the one that I'm using, and it actually integrates with Jungo or Jungo. So great.
By the way, Mortgage Coach also integrates with Jungo, so check it out. Mary, sorry for jumping all over that. I just couldn't help myself.
No, you're fine. To make a note really quick with Big Purple Dot, I'm sure some people are wondering, I have done a webinar with John Rankin, who's with Big Purple Dot, and if you check out the Lender Resource Center in our past webinars, you can see one there where he talks a little bit more about their system and how it works. And we also have a special promo code if you're interested in signing up or learning more. I just put that in the chat as well, so be sure to use that. I also wanted to talk a little bit about business growth and just kind of seeing where you're at with inbounds and leads and kind of where you're sourcing your business, given the climate of the mortgage landscape changing with rates going up and refis kind of going by the wayside a bit. So Scotsman Guide, of course, has so much information at our fingertips with volume and closing. So it looks like in 2015 you had about $81.5 million in volume, but in 2016 it was $105 million. So that was that 29% increase in growth. Where do you see yourself ending 2017, and where is your business? Where are you focusing your business? How has that changed with some of the changes with interest rates?
So we are going to be a little bit off this year just from twofold. One, the business climate changing a little bit, and also moving companies. You kind of, well, I wish I would have slowed down a little bit, but I mean, I'm thankful that I had that. But we're going to probably be on track to do. We're hoping we're going to hit 100 million. It's going to be close. I mean, again, we're not giving up. We have 5 more months to do this, and we've really increased our Zillow profiles. I wish the inventory would catch up with us. That's where we plan. Our goal is to do 200 units and 100 million. That's what our goal is. And right now it's me as an originator, and then we're brought in Sonia as well as an originator. So we're hoping as a group we'll do 100 million, which would be good on a move year and with the down cycle. But we're consistently closing 15 to 16 deals a month, and we're averaging anywhere from 7 to 9 million a month consistently, even with the move. I would say my growth last year is twofold. I love Zillow. You know I love Zillow. I believe that Zillow is one of the keys to my success. I would say probably 14 to 15% of that growth was from Zillow or relationships that I got from Zillow. So you have to remember every Zillow lead that you bring in, and I'm really good at getting those referrals. I will chase them. I will do my best. I will be in front of them. I try my best to, do the best job that my team can and set expectations correctly. The other thing with Zillow that is incredible is you have to remember on Zillow long form, when that lead comes in, one of my intake questions is, are you currently working with a realtor? You already kind of know their personality as you're talking to them during your intake. So hopefully you'll know they'll match the other one. And I tell the clients, hey, why don't you try calling so-and-so? And if that doesn't work, let me know, because I want to be the one-stop shop. I want them coming to me to know who they need to go to. It's a nice client shift. We need our realtors, don't get me wrong, but it's nice to be able to have my realtor need me a little bit for once. Yay. Doesn't always happen that way, but it's a symbiotic relationship. It is. I do the best that I can for everybody that we do, and I do the best thing that I can for our Zillow leads. But I love Zillow, and I actually started using Concierge, which I was not a fan of at first, but they've made some changes to that, and I'm really enjoying it because it's taking out what I call chatter clutter, all the ones I'm trying to follow up on. I don't have to do that anymore because Zillow is doing that. And when the stuff comes to me, I'm dealing with the live people. I'm dealing with the shortened version, my A-B group instead of my A through F group, because it's too much to do all of them.
We have a couple of questions coming in about what your campaign looks like. Given that you're in California, are you focusing on one specific market? How many leads do you think you're getting per month, and so on?
So I'll walk you through the life of the loan of a Zillow lead, and then I will tell you how I do my strategy. So Zillow lead comes in, it goes to Concierge. Concierge works it for 3 days, and then it comes to me. It goes into my big purple dot drip campaign, which is an automatic text and email the second it comes in. Hey, we've been trying to reach you. You've taken the great first step, something very positive, very short on the text messages. We follow up with them. We are now integrating in once we connect with the client, immediately they get a mortgage coach presentation on. We have already built one for Why Buy Now, and we have a rent versus own one that we send to them immediately. I also blast that out once a month to the Zillow leads I haven't talked to. Hey, we haven't been able to reach you. Wanted you to see this great one. We did one for Zillow put out, I think it was 5 months ago, Zillow did a cost of rent, how much rents were going up. So what we did is we tagged on our rent versus own with the Zillow article and blasted it to all of our Zillow leads that we had. And I'm telling you, we converted probably another 3 leads by just blasting out that video.
So by the way, Michele, stop.
Yes.
I want to make sure everybody caught that, because it's so big in today's market that we get, because it's a seller's market. Everybody's got a bigger group of pre-approved buyers. And I hope you heard what Michele just did, is she's using, again, mortgage coach, but even if you don't have mortgage coach, a story and a strategy that you send out to educate and stay top of mind. I mean, that was so big, and so many loan officers miss that, because one of the challenges today is that it's not like everybody just goes, they get pre-qualified, they buy a house. Even if they want to, they can't do that, because in some markets, they got a 10% chance that their offer is going to get accepted, maybe 20, maybe 30. So anyways, Michele, I didn't mean to cut you off. I just wanted to put a big explanation mark around that, because I bet you everybody on this call right now, you've got a lot of Zillow leads that are warm, that are incubating. And if you send a story and strategy to educate them, and by the way, that story and strategy needs to create urgency. So, Why buy now? It's not just FHA loan limits changed or underwriting guidelines. It needs to be a story and a strategy that creates urgency. And by the way, Michele, if you don't mind, it's probably too much to ask you to multitask now. Maybe I'll try to find something, but if we could put a link, I'll find something. I'll put a link in here that shows an example of how to create urgency with your incubation buyers. I'll go find something from one of our past videos and I'll show. Anyways, keep it rocking.
Okay, great. Okay. So Zillow leads, so now we've gone all the way through the mortgage pitch presentation, and then hopefully at that point we convert, and then you go into your normal process, whatever process works for you guys. Again, I can tell you what my process is, but if it doesn't work for your team, it doesn't matter. So Dave was really right. The best CRM is the one you use. And I don't care what it does. If you use it, it will work for you. I mean, it's going to save 20 to 30% of your day of, oh gosh, I forgot to follow up on that. Oh gosh, you wake up in the middle of the night, oh, I forgot to call Steve Smith back. So that is one of the things that I love about that. What else was I supposed to do, Mary, right after that? I was going to talk about the lifetime loan of Zillow, and then I think I got off track. Like, let's see what I did.
I did it. I apologize.
That's okay. And maybe lead conversion. Is that what we were talking about? How we convert those leads? Is it okay if I talk about how I use Zillow right now?
Yes, go for it.
Okay. So for me, I have, one of the questions was, what marketplace do I use for Zillow? How do I market to them? And then what area do I market to? I only market to Orange County and San Diego County because that's where my base is. There's plenty of business out there for me in those two areas. I specialize in the VA loans. So I have one VA and then one normal. So I take on 2 leads a day. I can't handle more than that. Even Sonia and I work them together. We can't handle more than that. So if you think about it, if you get 2 leads a day, your first 5 days is great, right? You have 10 leads you're working, no problem. But fast forward that 2 years, and the number of leads that we're working is this, and we can't do that. So we stuck with 2 leads so that we could work those 2 leads till they can't be worked anymore. We do a power of 6 is what we call it. We touch them 6 times. We have to. Zillow's already touching them 3 times, and once it comes from concierge unresponsive, we then touch it for 6 more times during that first month. And that conversion code actually tells me I should be doing it more, but we touch them 6 more times. And then we touch them 30 days later, another 6 times. And then 6 months later, another 6 times. And then the lead goes into a nurture campaign. Then we at that point, we're like, we'll touch base with you through a drip campaign, but we're not going to spend any more quote unquote man hours on it. We're going to let the computer do the work from that point forward.
So it sounds like you've got a really strong process, and there was somebody in our audience who also asked about scripting, and you kind of alluded to this a bit with being able to just share a story and being yourself, but do you have anything that you kind of follow, any scripts or anything like that that you use or your team uses?
I haven't actually. I'm not a scripter. I'm kind of a feeler. I feel the client out. I guess in my head I have a built-in script that I've been using for years, so it's not written. You know, hey, with your permission, we'd like to talk about your financial plans and goals. And this is going to take about 10 minutes of your time. Is right now a good time? And I always ask them also, are you a place where you can talk about your finances with me? Because I want them to know that I care about some. You know, sometimes they're going to have to talk about some really personal things. And if not, I ask them to reschedule. So I don't really have a script that I use. And that's probably one of my weaker points. There's no scripting for me. It's all kind of off the cuff a little bit.
So by the way, everybody, I did put 2 links to videos, which I think are some of the all-time best scripts. I did a call with Tim Berheen, Jeremy Forcier, Danny Harani, which are, you know, some of the best loan officers that ever lived. And it was, you know, what do you say to the family, you know, from a conversion standpoint? What do you say to realtors? And then I just interviewed Jeremy Forcier on what are 5 questions that he asked during realtor interviews. So I just put a few links in there on what I think are some of the best scripts I've ever heard. Just FYI.
Awesome.
Great.
Oh, Gilbert in the audience is asking what a touch consists of during your Power of Six time frame. He's asking about text, emails, calls, just maybe a couple of things that you're using with that.
Okay, and also I just want to go back to one question I saw pop up on the screen was what phone dialer system I have, and I think I answered it phone burner, and if I didn't, that's fine. So the Power of Six Touch is 3 calls, 2 calls, 2 emails, and 2 texts. So, and that they alternate. I'm a weird girl. I'm prime 1, 3, 5, 7, 1, 3, 5, 7, and 11 days. I think that's the timing on it. I don't know why I picked it. It just works for me. I'm goofy.
Hope that answered your question, Gilbert. And again, if you have any questions, feel free to put them in the Q&A. That just makes sure that we're able to see them a little bit better than in the chat, because the chat, we have a lot of links there. So Sarah is asking more about marketing strategy on Zillow. So are you using co-marketing? And obviously you're on long form. I guess she's just interested in learning more about what your overall strategy is, how much of your marketing dollars are spent there, and so on.
That's a great question, Sarah. So I will address this as delicately as I can. Long form is the majority of my income. The majority of my budget spend goes into long form because to me, it has a higher rate of return and a higher ROI on my relationships with my business partners. I do co-marketing. That one is more to support my realtors, but I would say the majority of my lead time. The time that I spend on the lead is on my long form. Co-branding, we really touch once and let the realtor do the rest. My spend is, here's what I look at. My spend needs to be 50% of what my budget is, or not budget, so if I want to do 10 million a month, I'm going to spend 5,000 on Zillow. That makes sense. That's just the formula I've used, and it's been very successful for me. So if you know that I'm doing 8 million a month, it tells you how much I'm spending on long form right now. And then co-branding, I limit my co-branding. Again, thank you, Cindy Ertman, for helping me. As a lot of people that come out and say, hey, I want you to market with me. I want you to market with me. I tell them that I'll be happy to market with you and I would love to market with you, but we need to close 3 transactions together first. And then I'll be happy to meet with you and talk about our budgeting. It just works out well because otherwise you spend your money on things that you don't know. And I don't do new things anymore. I have had so many people hit you up. Oh, try this new advertising thing. Try this new lead conversion thing. Again, the first thing I ask those people that call me is give me 3 realtors and 3 lenders that are using it that I can call and speak to, and I get hung up on half the time.
Looks like we have another question here from Ismail, I hope I'm saying your name correctly, about some of the objections you're getting from prospects. So I guess this kind of goes back into conversion and trying to get the borrower on the phone and actually getting through those hurdles of them trusting you.
I'll show you my favorite text messages that I get, because unfortunately the CRM is set that the text goes out when the lead comes in. So if somebody's shopping on Zillow at midnight, they get a text at midnight. There's no way to turn that off. Is who are you? That's my first one I get. Or what is this about? So a lot of times, or somebody says, you're contacting me too much. And my first response on that is, oh my gosh, that's great news. And they go, what are you talking about? And I go, that's great news. That means I'm doing my job. I said, we want you. We represent Zillow, and our job is to get in contact with you and help you. So those, I kind of make a joke about things. Some people are just shoppers. And again, you learn to identify those people as you start growing your sales, and you learn what people you want to invest your time in. If I have a shopper that's going to keep shopping me and tells me that, so-and-so is $5 more in a fee, and I tell them, or $5 less, I say, oh my gosh, that's great, go use them. I'm not afraid to walk away from a deal because I don't focus on the deal, I focus on the relationship. Because if I have a bad deal and a bad relationship with that client, my team's going to have a bad relationship. I'm going to get a bad review. The whole cycle of the loan is going to be bad. And I just closed one that was bad, and I told myself I'll never do that again, because I fired the client in the pre-qual process and took it back.
I do want to give everybody a tactic with rate shoppers. And I've done a lot of interviews where like, how do you overcome rate shopping? So in our YouTube channel, you can just type in overcome rate shopping and you'll get different loan officers scripts on that. But a tactic that I want to make sure everybody gets, because I know you don't let loans go for $5. I know Michelle, I've interviewed her enough times. But you were making a point, we don't want to do business with uncool people. I mean, I actually used to, keep a category in my CRM, because I want to be able to help people. I want to deal with cool people. I mean, there is a line where they can be a little uncool, but when they start getting toxic, we need to get rid of them. So I'm with you on that. But what you want to do is you want to get the client off of the rate and the payment and onto what is their bigger goal, what's your goal in 5 years, and then what's the total cost of that loan over 5 years. Because average loan officers, they just melt. I mean, they can't even have that 5 year, 7 year conversation. And then you even want to kind of get the buyer to where when they ask, the best loan officers will train their loan officers or train their borrowers to go out and shop, saying, what's your rate, what's your payment, what's the cost over 5 years? And most loan officers are like, what? I mean, I don't know. I don't even know how to get that. Now, so it's called total cost selling. And then what you want to do is you want to get the buyer focused on the bigger benefit. Like, let's say someone said, how old do you want to be when your home's paid off? And they go, oh, I want to be 50. Well, how old are you going to be based off the current loan? They're going to be 60. So now we've got a gap of 50 to 60. And you could start, saying, well, what if you did this loan? You prepaid your mortgage by $200 a month. That would save you $60,000 over 11 years. And now you're not just quoting rates and fees, you're helping the family pay off their home 10 years faster and save $50,000 or $70,000 in interest. And by the way, I know Michelle does that. And so that her clients aren't worried about $5 a monthly payment or $15 or $20 or $500 in closing costs, because she's got them. One, they want to do business with her because she's cool. She's got great systems. She was the first one there, but she's also focused on bigger goals and bigger numbers than $5. So I just wanted to share that.
We have Bob in our audience asking about what your conversion rate is and about how long does it take for you to actually see a lead get to closing?
Okay, so that is a great question. And I have a lot of people call me that are getting ready to sign on Zillow. I will tell you this, and I'm sure Zillow tells you this. You need to invest in Zillow for 6 months. And if you can invest in Zillow for 6 months, your ROI will be incredible over the next 2 years. But it takes 4 to 6 months to convert those leads. And especially in the market that we're in right now. I would tell you last year, my conversion ratio was faster. I was, converting in 1 to 2 months. But right now it's taking 4 to 6 months to get these people, because a lot of people are like, I'm not quite ready yet, or there's no inventory right now. So a lot of people are like, gosh, I can't buy. And my job, if I can get them on the phone, and that's the big thing, get them on the phone to get them excited about the opportunity or the prospect of being able to purchase. So my conversion ratio is about 7 to 8%. So if I bring in, and my ROI, I think I was at Mastermind or Sales Mastery last year, and we did our numbers, and I think I had I want to say a 218% ROI on my Zillow. I spent let's just say I spent about $60,000 to $70,000 a year on Zillow, and my net take home after all my teams paid, everything is almost triple that.
That's amazing.
So it's a great ROI for me. But you have to work it. And if you don't have a CRM, you don't have somebody who's willing to make those calls, if you're not willing to call them again 30 days later, or I have a closed and lost campaign that even if I lose them, if they tell me they're working with somebody else, I don't let them go. I call them in 15 days. I call them again in 45 days. And I always touch base and say, hey, I'm sorry I wasn't able to be your lender of choice. I hope in the future I'm able to help you. Most times when I lose a loan and I talk to the client, and and I'll talk to them afterwards, and they'll say, I should have stayed with you. That's probably 70% of the comments. I should have stayed with you. It wasn't worth that, you know, my best friend's referral, you know, blah, blah, or my boyfriend's, you know, sister's brother's loan officer. So those are just some great tips, and that's how I keep my ROI up. But you do have to work the leads, and it is a 4 to 6. You have to nurture for 4 to 6 months. If you could write a check, let's say your bonus was, let's say that your spend was $1,000 a month. If you could write a check for $6,000 today and not think about it for 6 months, you would sell well.
I want to make sure folks realize that ROI is only a portion of it, because I've interviewed Michele. I know her model. She's also getting a huge ROI from the realtor relationships that she's developing, for the value she's creating, because she has a perfect loan process. She wows people, gets great reviews. She's getting referrals. I mean, that is like the tip of the iceberg to the ROI that Michele gets. If you really factor in all the strategic value she's getting.
Exactly. And
that's amazing. It definitely kind of goes to show that there's a lot of benefit in learning more about long form. So I launched a poll for any of you who are interested in being contacted. Go ahead and just say yes, and we'll follow up with you, as well as Dave from Mortgage Coach, if you're interested in learning more about that. It looks like we're getting close to the end of our time. I want to just open up for any last questions here. It looks like we've got a couple here. Like a closing gift program. Do you want to elaborate if you have something like that?
I do a closing gift program. So every time a loan closes, the client will get, we have these really beautiful faux pas wool blankets that I do. And they have our logo on them. So I send those out because they're great throws on your couches. I don't do edibles, and I don't do things that expire in a week, because I want it to stay there and them to remember me. And I saw another question from Steven about, do I upfront underwrite my loans? Yes. I require my Zillow people, if they want to be on our 14 or 21 day close, they must underwrite with me upfront. And it really does, because I put a guarantee on closing. And again, that word is guaranteed. Todd Benson loves that word. It's a guarantee on closing. Is that I require that if they want to go through that process, because it connects them with me a little bit more, because they have to get a little bit more in depth, but it also sends them out shopping with confidence.
All your hard work is definitely paying off. You're memorable. We see that on your Zillow profile with all those reviews, and more to come, I'm sure. So thank you again so much for taking time to come and answer all these questions and to chat with us about your experience and what has helped drive your success. Obviously, your customers mean everything to you, and I think that's probably the most resonating thing that you said here, is just to put your customer first and know why you're doing this to begin with. So again, thank you, and thanks, Dave, for coming. I'm really happy with that we were able to have both of you on at the same time and getting all that scheduling figured out. So anybody who has questions in our audience, feel free to submit those, and I will do my best to answer any of those, and we'll follow up with anyone who asks for a follow-up. And for those of you who are on our next webinar, we'll be starting in just a moment here with those of you who are on long form. So stay tuned, and we'll talk to you soon. Thanks again, everyone.
Thanks, everybody. Bye-bye.
Pleasure. Take care, everybody.